It is the Jesse Kelly Show, another hour of the Jesse Kelly Show on a wonderful, absolutely wonderful Tuesday. So let's talk Amnesty here really quickly. We're about to talk Amnesty, then I'll touch on some of this Ukraine, sending weapons to Ukraine stuff, robotic coyotes, emails, lots of stuff still to come on the Jesse Kelly Show on a wonderful Tuesday night. First, there have been rumors, if you will, more than rumors. Donald Trump put out a social media post not long ago, and he was talking about, well, this is what he said back in June. Quote, "Our farmers and the people in the hotel and leisure business have been stating that our very aggressive policy on immigration is taking very good, long-time workers away from them, with those jobs being almost impossible to replace. In many cases, the criminals allowed into our country by the very stupid Biden open borders policy are applying for those jobs. This is not good. We must protect our farmers, but get the criminals out of the United States. Changes are coming." So you're not an idiot. You can read between the lines. Donald Trump's phone was blowing up with a bunch of hotel guys and farmers saying, hey, all my cheap illegal labor, you're deporting them all. And so Trump puts out that social media post. Immediately, there was backlash from you, from the MAGA faithful, from the MAGA base. Immediately, remember, this was back in June. June 12th was the day he put that out. People flooded the White House with emails, social media posts. What is this garbage? No, if they're here illegally, they have to go. Backed off. Never heard another word about it. Then July 4th weekend. I think it was Saturday of July 4th weekend, maybe Sunday, Saturday or Sunday, July 4th weekend. After dead silence for almost a month, Trump got up, we played this yesterday, said this.
We're working on legislation right now where farmers, look, they know better. They work with them for years. You had cases where, not here, but just even over the years, where people have worked for on a farm for 14, 15 years, and they get thrown out pretty viciously, and we can't do it. We got to work with the farmers and people that have hotels and leisure properties too. We're going to work with them, and we're going to work very strong and smart, and we're going to put you in charge. We're going to make you responsible, and I think that that's going to make a lot of people happy.
Okay. I played it on the show. You heard it already probably before the show, and you did not, to your credit, fall in line like a lemming. Because you're not a sheep. You have desires, hopes, dreams. You loudly told the Trump White House. I saw all the emails. I didn't see all the emails, but I saw a bunch of emails, social media. The response was loud. No, absolutely not. No. Today, Brooke Rollins, Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins, said, quote, "There will be no amnesty." Trump today said this.
There's no amnesty. What we're doing is we're getting rid of criminals, but we are doing a work program. Do you want to explain that, please?
Yeah, this morning we talked about, of course, this was a top of mind question. This morning we talked about protecting the farmers and the farmland, but obviously this president's vision of no amnesty, mass deportation continues, but in a strategic way, and then ensuring that our farmers have the labor that they need. Secretary Chavez DeRimmer has been a leader on this. Obviously this comes out of the Labor Department, but moving toward automation, ensuring that our farmers have that workforce, and moving toward an American workforce. So all of the above.
We've got to give the farmers the people they need, but we're not talking amnesty.
You are the one responsible for that. And this is what I have told you over and over and over again about putting down the pom-poms, put the pajamas away, and let all of your elected leaders, including Donald Trump, know when they are saying or doing something that displeases you. The worst possible thing you can do is become a man fan, a pom-pom waver, because it enables people to do the worst things, and you'll always be cheering. That is horrible. You can love Donald Trump. You can think he's the greatest president ever. And to be honest with you, I'm not so sure he's not on the short list. He's been outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. You can think all these things. Wear your Trump hat. Wave your Trump sign. Use your bumper sticker. But don't ever just go along with whatever he says or whatever he does, because he's still just a man, just like you, just like me. You make mistakes. I make mistakes. That's all Chris does is make mistakes. We're all human beings. That's not very nice, Chris. Put that finger down. We're all human beings. We screw up. Don't be a man fan, and you weren't. And that's why immediate backlash, immediate backtrack on Amnesty. Now, obviously, as you can hear, I'll play it again. Trump heard you loud and clear. To his credit, I've always said this. It's not a flaw. It's to his credit. He listens when his base speaks. That's why he doesn't. You notice he doesn't brag about the vaccine anymore. Used to do that on campaign stops. Why did he stop doing that? Well, I mean, the word's out there now. He started asking friends and family members, why are they all booing whenever I bring it up? He heard you. You didn't wave your pom-poms. You didn't cheer. You said, oh, stop. He stopped talking about it. Stop bragging about it. He heard you. He heard you here. He still has people in his ear, though, talking about the workers. So it went from amnesty to a work program of some kind. He's still going to try to thread a needle, to walk a line, and that's fine. He's going to try to do right. We don't know. We can't get mad about a policy. We don't know what it is yet, but you can hear here. He's letting you know this was for you. No amnesty. No amnesty. Says it a couple times.
There's no amnesty. What we're doing is we're getting rid of criminals, but we are doing a work program. Do you want to explain that, please?
Yeah, this morning we talked about, of course, this was a top of mind question. This morning we talked about protecting the farmers and the farmland, but obviously this president's vision of no amnesty, mass deportation continues, but in a strategic way, and then ensuring that our farmers have the labor that they need. Secretary Chavez DeRimmer has been a leader on this. Obviously, this comes out of the Labor Department, but moving toward automation, ensuring that our farmers have that workforce, and moving toward an American workforce. So all of the above.
We want to give the farmers the people they need, but we're not talking amnesty.
Said it a couple times. That was him listening to you, responding to you. Good job. And this is how we always have to be. Remember, this isn't just for Trump. You know, we should be like this with our state reps and state senators. You know that. Your state legislature actually has more power over your life. What is allowed, what isn't allowed. They have more power over your life than the federal government does. Really, more than Donald Trump does, more than Congress, more than the Senate. State legislatures are incredibly powerful and decide the direction of their state. Let me ask you, not trying to make you feel bad, but let me ask you, do you know their names? Have you ever met them? Did you know you can? These are not unattainable people. Unless you start writing large campaign checks, you'll probably never meet the U.S. senator from your state. That's not a thing that's accessible to most normal people. Maybe you could run into him at an event and he'd shake your hand and put a fake smile on, but you're never going to actually have a conversation with him. You know who you can have a conversation with because he lives in your area, probably your neighborhood, state reps and state senators. You know they have public events, public town halls. They'll put it on their website. Do you know how many people show up at these events? I've been to several because I ran for Congress. I used to go to these state events. 10, I'm not even making that up. 20, maybe 50. I don't think I've ever seen one with 50 people in it. You can show up and you can speak to your state rep, your state senator. And if they are displeasing you, you can let them know. And we should. I don't remember who said it, but it's a great saying. Politicians should be changed as often as diapers, and for the same reason, don't ever become a man fan. Let them know what you like and what you don't. Let's do some emails. Next. It is the Jesse Kelly Show on a fantastic Tuesday, and we'll get to the sending weapons to Ukraine stuff, the good of it, the bad of it, all this stuff here in just a few. It's time to do some emails. I promised emails. Let's do some emails first. Jesse at jessekellyshow.com. Jesse, I bet some people looked up where the shooter in McAllen was from and thought, wow, looks nice. Oh, McAllen. Now, McAllen, Texas. Just a little heads up for you about it. I have spent a lot of time down in McAllen, Texas, where that shooting at the ICE facility took place. I did a construction project down there with my dad. I have taken the boys down there dove hunting multiple times. It feels like you're in Mexico. It's right on the border. It's a huge trafficking hub. I don't know that it's the safest place I've ever been. And I've been in a lot of hot places. And I've been in a lot of hotter places than McAllen. But it's on the list. I'll put it to you that way. The first time I got off a plane in McAllen, it was the middle of the summer. Whew, it was the heat was like a life force down there. There are a lot of doves, though. Jesse, we have many, many years of illegals being in San Diego. We need to use common sense. What do we do with a gardener who was picked up and has 3 sons in the Marines? I'm 79. This has gone on too long. Biden's illegals have to go. It's a real problem. But Trump is right. Something has to give at least serious screening. So, she's saying, hey, look, these people who've been here a long time and stuff like that. And okay, I understand what you're saying. And I'm not going to crush you for that opinion at all. I'm not. But this goes back to what we were discussing actually in the first hour and what we've talked about many times when it comes to trust. The first hour, we were talking about the Epstein stuff. And people want answers. They want information. And so I'll put it to you this way. If our Department of Justice and our FBI and our CIA, if they were trustworthy in the eyes of a large portion of the American people, like they used to be. I'm not saying they've ever been trustworthy, so don't email me and tell me they've always been bad. I don't want to hear it. I know. But 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the FBI had an approval rating in the 80s, I believe, if I remember right. The American people, right and left, trusted the FBI. So 10, 15 years ago, when the public believed what the FBI said, the Attorney General could come out and say this, and everyone would say, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein.
She says that when we live in a high trust society, people go, oh, okay, that makes sense. I certainly don't want any child porn out there. I get it. Okay, I get it. Thank you, Pam. We don't live in that society. We live in a society where our institutions have violated our trust so many times that now that answer doesn't work anymore. How does this apply to your email? Well, Jesse, can't the farmer stay? Can't the people who've been working here stay? Can't they stay? That answer, I'm not insulting you at all. I'm really not. And I'm fine insulting people. That answer in a vacuum is understandable. We are not in a vacuum. We are in a society where we have watched Democrats and Republicans like James Lankford of Oklahoma. We've watched these people intentionally fill up our country with foreigners year after year after year after year after year. And then the Biden administration, because it was run by evil communists while Joe Biden drooled on himself, they took that and they put it into hyperdrive, and they flew barbarians into this country as fast as they possibly could. From every corner of the globe, they brought in as many barbarians as they could, trying to break this country, trying to overwhelm the system, a real Cloward Piven strategy. So now, after that, the American people don't want to hear, well, what about the farmers? There's no appetite for that now. There may have been, maybe even 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, definitely 20, 30 years ago, those kind of stances would have been more acceptable to the American people. Okay, well, he's been here, he hasn't murdered anybody. I'm not saying I would have ever had that stance, I'm not. But the American people as a whole would have had much more understanding because trust hadn't been violated yet. But when you sit back as an American citizen and watch Democrats and James Langford bring as many illegals into the country as they possibly can, you don't want to hear about farmers anymore. You don't want to hear that the hotels need cheap maids to clean the rooms. You don't want to hear about it. Your patience is done. Trust is gone. Now it becomes all of you get out. Every one of them. In a vacuum, your email is understandable. Life does not exist in a vacuum. We'll do some more. It is the Jesse Kelly Show on a wonderful Tuesday. Remember, if you miss any part of the show, you can download the whole thing on iHeart, Spotify, iTunes. Let's do a few more emails before we do ugly Ukraine stuff. I don't want to go back to politics yet. I'm in a mood, right? I'm in a mood. Jesse, I want to request a history segment. Ooh. I just love ancient history, especially relating to ancient Rome and Carthage. Can you do something about Hannibal? Maybe about the Battle of Cannae. All right. So I have done the Battle of Cannae, or at least I've done Hannibal before. So I'm not going to go into a long one, but you requested it, and I'm kind of in that kind of a mood. So okay, let's just discuss this. I'll be as fast as I possibly can. Fast as I possibly can. So remember, hindsight's 2020, and the war with Carthage, between Rome and Carthage, specifically the one with Hannibal, that was the Second Punic War. They're known as the Punic Wars. There were three, the third one being the finale, since there wasn't a Carthage by the time they were done. The second one is the most famous one because the second one brought maybe the most brilliant tactical military commander in human history. Hannibal Barca is his name. Isn't that sick? He just sounds awesome. Hannibal Barca. Carthage was a juggernaut at this time, a superpower in their own right. If you were handicapping this war, I don't know that you would choose Carthage or Rome, but you'd say Carthage has a chance. Massively powerful. And remember where the locations we're talking about here. Carthage is in North Africa, touching the Mediterranean. You know about Italy, the boot, all that. They're on the other part of the Mediterranean. This is really a war for control of the major traffic hub of the ancient world. Hannibal's father was a general, a very good one, allegedly. Hannibal's father had multiple sons. They were all military commanders, and his sons were called, because they called his father the Lion, his sons were known as the Lion's Brood. Isn't that sick? The Lions. Anyway, Hannibal hates Rome. He is born to hate Rome. His father hated Rome, war with Rome. Hannibal creates this incredible army. And this everybody knows about. He crosses the Alps. He has elephants. Now, a lot of those died. The crossing of the Alps is an amazing story. He's fighting with tribes. There's cold. People are falling off of cliffs. Just Hannibal crossing the Alps would be a movie in and of itself if you could go back and figure out all the details. It would be amazing. It would be amazing. Rome hears he's coming. They're a little taken aback because they thought the Alps were impenetrable. But Hannibal crosses the Alps. They're waiting for him. The Romans are waiting for him practically as he gets down. There's a little lag. And Roman armies didn't really lose. Hannibal promptly beats the living crap out of them. Then Rome raises another army. This is what they would do. Just raise another army. We'll go get him. They send him up there. Hannibal ambushes them by a big lake, beats the living crap out of them. Now Rome is petrified. And they're taking this problem very, very, very seriously. Hannibal has, these are all rough numbers, and you can't really rely on historical numbers like this anyway, so just it's rough. Hannibal has about 50,000 troops. Rome raises an 80,000 man army. And unlike today, where you have the Lindsey Graham types sending everyone else off to war every chance they get, Roman politicians believed they had to march off themselves. A large portion of the Roman Senate grabbed a sword and a shield and marched off. Rome, it sent its politicians at the head of its armies to go fight when Rome had to fight. It's a very good system, much better system than the one we have. They take this 80,000 man army, remember it's bigger than Hannibal's, and they march it up to fight Hannibal. I won't go over all the nitty-gritty details because I don't want to do a super long history thing, but what Hannibal does is so risky and brilliant, and what he does is he does something that military experts, they say it's impossible. They said beforehand it was impossible, and to this day they say, I don't understand how he did it because it's supposed to be impossible. What Hannibal did to the Roman army with his smaller army was he surrounded it. How could he do that? How is it possible that he did that? Well, this is what he did. Normally back then, you would want your strongest, most reliable troops. Because remember, no matter what kind of army you have, Roman, Carthaginian, whatever, you are going to have your A+ shock troops. And then you're going to have some people, they're not quite as reliable. Younger, weaker, not as well trained. It's just like today. You're going to have your Green Berets and you're going to have the fry cook, your star. Conventional wisdom back then said you put your strongest ground troops in the center because you need your center to hold. You need it all to hold, but you really have to have your center to hold. That's, of course, how the Romans did their lines. Hannibal put his weakest troops in the center, his strongest troops out on the edges, because Hannibal had a plan. He stood behind his weak center because he couldn't have his weak center break right away, but his plan was allow the Romans to push into his army and plan on your center losing ground. And it happened. The Romans, of course, the lines meet, but Hannibal's center starts losing ground because that's where his weakest troops are. The Romans put their shock troops there, their best troops. They're losing ground, but Hannibal's behind them saying, hold, trying to hold things together. But what's not happening? The edges of Hannibal's army, they're not going backwards because that's where his best troops are. In fact, they start pushing forward. The Romans are pushing this center backwards, and they didn't know until it's too late. Remember, they don't have some bird's eye view back then. It's all screaming and yelling and blood and dust. Rumor is it was extremely dry and dusty that day, so you couldn't see what was happening. The Romans did not realize they were pushing into a trap. As they pushed, Hannibal's army began to envelop them, and eventually the Romans pushed so far that Hannibal's army, smaller, remember, 50,000 men versus 80,000, completely encircled the Romans. Then they slaughtered every single one of them. It took, according to the writing, all day as the Romans inside of this circle of death died to the last man. The Roman army was not completely wiped out. People will see there are 10 to 15,000 survivors. Those were the people who were back at camp. Everyone in the circle died because you're encircled. There's no escape. It was so horrifying. They found Roman soldiers who dug a hole for their heads in the ground and buried themselves and suffocated themselves rather than wait for the Carthaginians to come do it with a sword and a spear. Tactically, it's just beyond belief. That is the briefest possible version I can give you of the Battle of Cannae. Fascinating story. If that interested you, go look into it more. Trust me, I gave you a 30,000 foot view. There's more to it, and it's awesome. It is the Jesse Kelly Show on a lovely, lovely Tuesday. Okay, now let's discuss something that people are talking about today as far as sending military aid to Ukraine. I have a statement here put out by actually my buddy, Sean Parnell, Chief Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell. At President Trump's direction, the Department of Defense is sending additional defensive weapons to Ukraine to ensure Ukraine can defend themselves while we work to secure a lasting peace and ensure the killing stops. Our framework for POTUS to evaluate military shipments across the globe remains in effect and is integral to our America First defense priorities. Okay, that's the official statement. Donald Trump talked about it a bit. Here's what he said.
We want to put defensive weapons because Putin is not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people. So we're sending some defensive weapons to Ukraine, and I've approved that.
Okay. He also said this.
That was a war that should have never happened, and a lot of people are dying, and it should end. And I don't know, we get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
Okay. I know a lot of people, myself included, are sick of America's involvement in this whole thing. They don't think we should have ever gotten involved. I don't think we should have ever gotten involved. I actually believe our involvement artificially propping up Ukraine has killed far more Ukrainians than were necessary. It's not that I'm cheering for Russia to invade anywhere, certainly not cheering for them to invade Ukraine, but if Ukraine had just lost the region Russia wanted to take back and they'd lost it quickly, then we wouldn't have 500,000 dead bodies on our hands that we know of. All that aside, the American people are tired of this, especially when inflation hasn't eased. The American people are done with foreign involvement. They're sick of it. This actually comes back to a theme we've been on this show. Even if in a vacuum, you could totally justify our involvement, the American people are done with it after so many years, so many screw-ups, so much foreign adventuring, so much money lost, lives lost, blood lost. The American people don't want to hear it anymore. They're tired of their blood and treasure being sent overseas. All understandable. In a vacuum, even if you can justify it, we're not in a vacuum. So people heard Trump say this, and they got angry.
We want to put defensive weapons because Putin is not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people. So we're sending some defensive weapons to Ukraine, and I've approved that.
Okay. Let me explain. I don't want you to take this as a defense, but actually, I take that back. You can take this as a defense. I understand what he's doing. I understand the concerns, and I understand what he's doing. Trump, you can hear his frustration, has been unable to fulfill a campaign promise by bringing this conflict to a close. He promised he would end it. He did. Now, you can say he probably shouldn't have promised that, but that's fine. But he said, I'll end it, I'll end it, I'll end it. In fact, he said multiple times, I'll end it on the first day. That's what he said. He's been unable to do so because Russia and Ukraine aren't done. Why do you think they haven't ended this whole thing? Because they're not done fighting. Putin has taken the territory he wanted. He's holding it. Ukraine, Zelensky has announced that's a red line. He can't have that territory. So we're kind of in a rough spot. They're not done killing each other. They don't want to stop fighting. Donald Trump is frustrated by that. And you can hear his frustration in dealing with Putin because to Trump, this should all make sense. He has even offered Putin, he's dangled it out there. Why don't we realign our relations? Let's end this endless Russia-America conflict thing. Why don't we get along? Maybe we'll do some trade. What if we For Donald Trump, it makes all the sense in the world. Hey, Ukraine, we'll do some mineral rights deals with you so we can protect you. Putin, don't think you're going to be left on the outs. We'll open up some trade between us. We'll all make money. This all works out. Putin doesn't think in those terms, and you can hear Trump's frustration.
That was a war that should have never happened, and a lot of people are dying, and it should end. And I don't know, we get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
He's frustrated. Hey, I'm working out a deal. Why don't you want to stop fighting? So Putin doesn't want to stop fighting because Putin's winning. He is. He's winning. He has held the territory he wants to hold. He is still going after the Ukrainians. I'm not defending anybody here. There's a long history here and all kinds of ugliness, and these two countries have been slaughtering each other as fast as humanly possible, and they don't want to stop. And Trump is frustrated. So he's giving Ukraine weapons, you can hear it, to defend themselves. He wants Putin to stop dropping missiles into these Ukrainian cities, stop killing civilians. Is this Donald Trump being manipulated by the deep state in order to keep this thing going on forever? You know, the defense industry wants this thing to go on forever. They're the ones that are going to get paid for all these replacement missiles. I don't know. It could be. We've watched before as CIA, FBI, defense industry generals have lied to Trump, manipulated Trump because they want to keep things going. He doesn't want to keep going. Is that happening here? Could be. I don't know. But I understand what he's saying. He's trying to force Putin to the negotiating table because money didn't get him to the negotiating table. He tried to use the carrot. Now he's using the stick. You don't want to come to an agreement? Fine. We'll send missiles over there. That's what's happening right now. All right. Let's talk about a little bit about that foreign investment, foreign adventuring that is aggravating, to put it mildly. Let's talk about robotic coyotes. Let's talk about the evil communists. Why do they go for that system membership card?